My dear friends, I'm happy to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to attend our panel discussion. Just get woman Aleksandra Pogorelaya, Communications Director at UFuture and a partner of the communications agency UAgency. I'm going to present the experience of two very cool teams, and the teams are here, and they have prepared this panel together with me. I was on my way here and I realized that each and every one of us, regardless of what they do, they are a communications director, and we all begin communicating with the world around us from day one. And those communications can take various shapes and forms. They can be both very corporate and very intimate. They can happen one-on-one, or as in my case now when I'm in front of such a large audience. There is always a very important aspect. Those communications lead you to success. They present the best parts of you and they bring your projects closer to achieving their goals, or those communications can slow down your success, both personal success and business success. And this is the question that we are going to look for an answer to. How to bring your communications closer to your corporate or personal success. And before I introduce our great speakers, we thought we would conduct an overview of global communications, and I will try and lay out for you some of the things that the best communications agencies are working on, just to summarize the current trends, what is going on the communications front. One important idea is brand loyalty is growing actually now. This is one important thing for businesses, and in communications this trend is very strongly pronounced. What is fueling this? The lockdown, the huge challenges that the world has faced globally has shown that there's been a very serious decline in the level of trust in government institutions, and society increasingly hold businesses responsible for keeping up the social dimension. CEO at the helm. It's another important feature that also is reflected in communications. It really is very critical. Who's in charge? Who's at the helm of a project? Who's the face of your project? Now, even those large giants, they're now investing in promoting their CEO's personal image. As opposed to corporate communications, brands should work to change the world. This is an interesting idea that is fairly new, is that the social importance and impact become increasingly more important than client benefits or objectives of your project. In terms of questions, we becomes more important than I. 64% of respondents have picked brands that are making this world a better place. This formerly was more in favor of concepts making my own personal life better. Now it's down to 37% of all clients who still hold on to this. An omni-channel, multi-channel business. Now, businesses would focus on one or two priority channels of communication where they thought they would be better off reaching their target audience. Now, brands should not necessarily be present all over the place. And then in order to communicate with their various target audiences, let's look at global statistics. So what we have now is 3 billion people who have on social media presence, and the forecast for 2021, this number is expected to reach 4 billion. And by 2025, some 4.5 billion people will become active social media users. Half the planet's population, about 100% of all able-bodied individuals. And just to demonstrate this dynamic, 520 million those who've joined over the past 12 months. They've become active social media users. As we can gather from these dynamics, that any communications, business communications, are becoming increasingly more personalized. You don't need any intermediaries, e.g., television, to engage with the audience. We can engage directly through your social media presence, and this infographic shows how various social media platforms are popular. Facebook, number one, YouTube in second place, and these are some numbers that social media companies have advertised at 3 billion, that they use 5 and more channels. You bound to have presence in YouTube, Instagram, and you may also be on WeChat, WhatsApp. Now, HR and PR, they're getting closer together now. When talents, when they are joining teams, it becomes more important for them. It's not how much they're going to charge, but it's all about how the brand positions itself to the world around it, and the language that it uses to engage with it, both internal and external audiences. If I'm here's HR and PR, they sort of stood separate. Now, even in Ukraine, up to 80% is collaborative work, from how you interact with your teams, whether you have it's a team of 5 or 5,000 people. Another important trend is that your staff now have a voice through their social media presence, and they either become your brand ambassadors and they are contributing to your business and personal reputation, or it goes the other way around. So that's actually enhances the importance of communication. So socially responsible leadership. 181 US CEOs have stated publicly that their commitment to a new role of their companies in the world. Those are not corporate statements. Those are personal statements made by those CEOs as personalities. Everyone is sort of rushing to emphasize in their vision how socially responsible they are. Now, communities. This is another powerful trend that you should embrace for analysis and for feedback. And this is always a two-way street. And what we would like to emphasize is that it's important to solicit and use feedback from your users, and the whole machine of social media networks that enable you to analyze and validate your business models. Now, 1/4 of all companies have stated that over the past year, their online communities have at least doubled. Since the pandemic started, this certainly has encouraged a new wave of social media accessions, and the to be part of personal branding. 2 or 3 years ago, this would have been unthinkable. 72% of all retailers have stated that it is through social media networks that they are now testing their products, and these numbers are really very spectacular, and you can use them in your own market research. This is a very simple a practice that also works in Ukraine. And in Ukraine, many large businesses have embarked on this trend. A community of like-minded people. It's not just that we have migrated to social media networks, but following this crisis, and because we were all trapped in this lockdown for a considerable period of time, we increasingly pick collaboration in a community. It doesn't matter what sort of community you're a member of. Is it a business club or you have a gym membership? So it's just that communities are growing all over the globe very actively, and in Ukraine too. There's one to be found to every taste. They open up huge opportunities for both promoting your own personal brand and also for pitching your products, to find allies and partners and brand ambassadors and clients. Certainly, this impact focus, and just to pepper it with more numbers. That this is now the talk of the town. That how it's actually happening. 73% of investors are seeing to it that their investment meets the 17 Millennium Development Goals enshrined in the UN Global Compact. And this is an important trend because money is going to flow towards socially responsible corporations, those that create a positive impact, those that have subscribed to the UN development goals. Now, 50% of users increasingly pay attention to whether the product they're buying is an eco-friendly one, whether the product or service they're buying meets environmental standards. Now it's 30%, but this is a trend that is very actively unfolding. Top 100 influencers among companies. Now, Time, the magazine, has created a list of 100 top companies, and many of those companies only deserve a place there because of their impact. General Motors, it is one of the 100 most influential companies, is because they are now shifting gears to create a green future, and they are now committed resources to creating an electric car. Or Adidas, it's not just because this is a cool sporting brand, but because they've announced a mission to reduce waste and switch to environmentally friendly operating practices. Now, nostalgia marketing. This is a new trend that set in during the lockdown because we sort of nostalgic about the good old world where you felt safe, where you didn't have all those environmental challenges and other restrictions, where we could feel at ease without having to think that we are standing on the verge of a global catastrophe. And we'd only learned about pandemics from history books when we had read about bubonic plague and other pandemics. Now anything that is vintage, that is retro, is becoming more in fashion. Now this is also fueled by many eco friendly manufacturers that, okay, leather goods will be a luxury, air travel will be more of a luxury, and this is kind of a nostalgic kind of trend that we all love, and it's really important to ride this trend. Now, many musical albums are now being released in the style of the 1970s, and I think that this trend is going to grow and develop. Now, video contact, YouTube channels, is something that I would like to touch upon more extensively. This is the best way to communicate interactively with your target audience. Our partner Air has shared some statistics because YouTube video hosting is number one video hosting service, and 60% now watch YouTube videos on their mobile devices, so you can watch a video from wherever you may be. And internet coverage is good enough for you to be able to watch from anywhere. Over 2 billion active users per month, and this is an important achievement. And some 6 out of 10 users watch YouTube content on a daily basis, which goes to show that this is a habit that's becoming so important to a user that it's not just for entertainment or not for watching some content for leisure, but more and more people increasingly decide to watch training videos, and this is a new way to approach their interaction. Now, ecosystems are trendy. Now, Unit City is a trendy ecosystem. It's how a trendy ecosystem has been delivered in Ukraine. But what this indicates is that horizontal networking lines are now sort of getting ahead of vertical, traditional hierarchies. Now, localization and support. Now, in this pandemic-stricken environment, now there's a lot being devoted to localization, like local releases made in Ukraine, and there is this natural wish to support your own domestic producers in in this environment, and people now realize that travel is no longer as easy as it has been in the past, or not only for leisure but also for medical purposes sometimes, and you may have a lot of money to afford that, but it's not, now that's why this trend to favor local manufacturers, leader collaboration. It is something that brand collaboration is now very welcome. Now, competitiveness is not as trendy as it used to be, so you should look for opportunities of collaborating with other companies, and this is just for mutual enhancement and strengthening. Shared use of shared economics. Since we have a special guest, this is a new trend. We're going to speak about how it translates itself through numbers, but sharing economies like ride sharing, those scooters that you can hire, and all the way to buying used goods. This is now very trendy. And now more than ever, what really matters is for a brand to communicate with their audiences through emotions. Being rational doesn't really work as well as it used to do, and it's just maybe all the people, even we want strong emotions, and brands have increasingly been embarking on more emotional channels when to encourage sort of spontaneous, emotion-driven buying. Thank you. So I would very much like to hear real examples of how those trends have really manifested themselves in Ukraine. And I would like to introduce our cool Ukrainian business people, and we're going to learn about those trends from three great representatives of the Ukrainian business community. Anna Chaplygina is a person who knows how to shape behavior to build a reputation. Valeriy Martynenko is a person who knows how to build an image to build a reputation. And Cristina Kurganskaya, who's a specialist in how to build an emotion to build a reputation. So I'm happy to hand it over to you, and the first speaker is Anna Chaplygina. Over to you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be back on the stage, and I thank you for your interest in this panel discussion. My talk is networking without any stunts. Now, before we move on, let's correctly formulate our objective, and then you're halfway through it. You will go, Anna, what about all those training courses where people are taught to be flashy and very spectacular, to be memorable when they make their presentations? My question is that, look, we are not discounting the value of being able to present yourself in the best possible light. But the question is, are you there to attract attention, or are you there to gain people's trust, based on which you will be building your future business relationship? Network, not show work, not wow work. So whenever you're starting up or expanding, or when you're looking for people who have more resources than you possess, because you have a need. You need to grow, you need to expand, you need resources, you need people who possess those resources. And you need to create this kind of chemistry to encourage those people to share their resources with you. Do you need a wow reaction? Yeah, this team is doing great. But what are you on about now? Okay, make a show, and does that result in any funding? No. Okay, it's what you've done is entertainment. Yeah, can you use this? Yes, but you'll have to keep doing that. and then yes, you will be recognizable as a showman, but sometimes you need to do targeted networking. I hope you did it yesterday, and I hope that you will be able to use specific tools to practice it, and you will have built new and useful connections. So this is my short bio, which you will have seen about me. It's Aleksandra might not have named all the companies that I've worked with, but look at this slide. Look at the companies that I've worked with. If back in childhood, if you did this exercise, that did this, you were given a time series by your math teacher, and you looked at a series of numbers, and what's in common. So who would come up with a common denominator? What distinguishes all these companies? Yeah, okay. Because we are under quite some time pressure, I'll give you the correct answer. Each of those companies is a leader in their respective market. They are very different. I didn't want to focus on one particular market, but each of them have their own metrics. Some measure performance in monetary terms, some measure it by awareness and recognition. My job was to gain the trust of the best. Okay. This is as of March 2021. And when I started out was March 2018. Is it painful? It's when you are riding this wave, and if you want to work with the best, I have a great product. I know your pain of any startup or anyone tapping a new market with a new product when there's no one to make a recommendation, and you want to be super cool and super great. How to get people excited? But my challenge was not just to roll out a new product and go like, I know how to improve and facilitate your communication. There are those technologies out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, that sort of thing. But this etiquette was not a word that had a good reputation. Sometimes you have to also counter any negative perceptions, and that was achieved over a span of 3 years, as you can tell. March 2021, I don't know if Vasil is in this audience, but I've seen him around. I'm proud that I've attracted the attention of such individuals. How I've done it, I'm going to tell you a very specific story. How I actually use networking to go from zero to, and it's not just, and I do not have to resort to anything out of the ordinary that is not something that you can't replicate. So I've used etiquette technologies. Back in 2018, when I was at level 0, what I could do, I could seek direct contact by writing about myself in social media networks, and I could just try and market my resources. I'm not the kind of girl that it's etiquette, never direct. I wrote to Yevgen Cherniak to offer my services. I wrote to other people, often met with silence on the other end, or met with the reaction, okay, business and etiquette, those are sort of worlds apart. Now, the Pareto rule, it's good to use it, not just to know it. I ended up investing 80% of my resources in seeking direct contract. My resources were limited, and everyone was sort of liking my text, but it does not result in anything tangible, in any corporate engagements. How to spend less and gain access to more. I realized what I needed to become a member of an association, of a community, which would open up access to active businessmen. And my brain sort of switched to sort of background mode, processing the task. At that time, I was a person who was given work to prepare interviews, to uh, basically to transcribe interviews and give them the text for them to use. And I was working on an interview, one person who, to the European Business Association. I just learned by listening to that audio. I realized that that journalist had an informal relationship with the president of the EBA. So what I did, so I'd worked with a certain person named Zhenya. We'd worked together at Ukrainskaya Pravda, and I sought his help. Look, I know you can't recommend me as an etiquette specialist because nobody used the results of my work, but so can you at least endorse me that I'm not some sort of a lunatic? I'm going to write to them, but I'm not somebody who's read a book on etiquette and then now trying to sell herself. So then silence on the other end, or something like a polite refusal. Then 2 weeks on, New Year's Day, and then the 20% was the effort that was correctly applied, and then I get, Anya, this is the contact person with the European Business Association, the person who is responsible for training programs. They awaiting your letter. That's it. All I needed, I needed a live conversation to be appointed, and then it was down to me, to my ability to create the right first impression. That is only something you can do in a live conversation. If you have the looks, if you have the communicative skills, if you know how to comport yourself. The whole panel discussion is about how to be likable, because if you are likable as a social creature, your projects will be likable by definition. This gives you a head start. It gives you, allows you more time to be heard. This was my story, and this is what now we're carving out of that story, a model that anyone can use. Look, contact and networking are different things. There is this erroneous opinion that a network is when you bring many people together in one place and they will sort of naturally meet one another, but it's just, if you approach this in this kind of offhandish manner, it's like a party. It's like when you're fishing. You throw a net into the sea and you catch whatever gets trapped in the net, and then you sort your catch, but or else you can be more targeted in fishing for the right fish, the one that you want to catch. That's how you pick your events. But the question is, are you going to meet with the person that you need? Because you can catch somebody you need in an elevator, in a lift. We all know this elevator pitch kind of thing, being able to drum out your story in the 30 seconds. But this is a little coercive. You simply hold that person hostage for the length of the ride. And you're not the first person to have attempted this. And people who have been pitched to on numerous occasions have developed an immunity. And the response is, yeah, smile and nod, smile and nod. If you approach somebody you need on the street, you are trespassing on their personal space. They're not there in their professional role. And it's like, okay, this is your contact, good, okay, I'm off. But at a gathering like this, you have access to anyone, and it's perfectly legit. If somebody is here, this means they've agreed to be approached, to be contacted. So there is a contact without network, but it's not just you need to stand close to somebody. That is not enough. You need to be kind of engage with that person effectively. Now, if you don't have anyone to make a recommendation, you go out and try and introduce yourselves to those other people. Yeah, this is a tall order. What to wear, what to say, how to say it. Pick the right scent. Cristina is going to talk to you about. All these are tools. Do not disregard them. Or use an intermediary. What is an introduction? You think that okay, you need to tell a nice story, and then okay, I'm also good at embroidery. But what is it for the person that you are pitching to? An introduction and is an opportunity for you to impart a sufficient volume of information to get the other person interested. Okay, if it is an official IT conference, you know that okay, everyone here is from the same market, and there is one person who goes, "Hello, Alexei Petrov, Global Logic." You go, "Okay, fine." The company has vested in that person the authority to speak on its behalf, and that is enough. All questions will be asked to that person. A business introduction is what you've got to do when you meet other people, and you add some sort of background in terms of what you do in the company. It's not enough to say Anna Chaplygina, Unit City. Okay, farewell, Anna Chaplygina. What do you do? Are you the person to complain if the toilets run out of toilet paper? No, you give your name. That is very preferable because people may not know, may not recognize your face, but they might have heard your name. So you are here not just to drink coffee, but you are pursuing some sort of a business agenda, your company and what it is you're responsible for, and what you can be contacted about. Very briefly, when you bring people together for a barbecue party, wine and cheeses, do not introduce a friend and what they do work, because they will, if they are a doctor, then they will end up spending the entire party giving free advice, because it's everyone will think I'm the only one who has a small question. What do you think about this or that? Now, I'm going to operate on you through your avatar. So what is this where this comes from? That this is a good friend. He's a journalist. Because those born in the 90s, it's many of us, we have never done much other than work. What can we speak about? So it's just that all we've done has been work. It's whenever you describe a person, you've got to share information relevant for the other person. So make sure that the other person understands what you are on about and why you're making an introduction, and do not leave people to their own devices, because the first thing they will do when the intermediary leaves, okay, nice to meet you. Oh, I have a text that I need to reply to urgently. So whenever you're making an introduction, you've got to stay on and you've got to stitch them together until the point when they start exchanging questions. Until that is achieved, you do not step off and you don't go, okay, let's keep it up and I have to meet more guests. No. You stay with them. It's a contact, but there is no liaison. There is no network created. People have nothing to talk about. They don't understand how they can benefit each other. When an intermediary introduces you, it's not as in olden times where somebody had to introduce you. Self-introduction was frowned upon. You will never sell yourself as well as another person. You may have a flashy presentation up your sleeve, but if you go, I'm the top specialist, I'm the coolest professional in this market, though these are my rules, I have all those people, but who could corroborate that? You just look around, no one behind you. Okay, but when you've been introduced by somebody, this is Anya. She's an etiquette specialist. Um, we've worked together. Okay, you've worked together. Okay, this is something to go on, and then it means if you are introducing her, it means you worked with her and you were happy with that relationship. Look, so you're so good that people are willing to endorse you and introduce you. And I understand that. Okay, now I understand why somebody is encroaching on my time, and my time is valuable. So many people around me who want a piece of it. Now, when you leave here, you don't think about who you could meet here and who you would need to make an introduction to somebody. Think about who you could possibly introduce to another person, and for those people to find some common ground and find a way to benefit one another. And my last story is who to approach for an introduction. Now, honestly, without any personal views, this is just a communicative task. Okay, on the eve of the parliamentary election, I wanted to articulate my position, who it was I was supporting. But because professionally I was barred from just writing a post, I liked that person, vote for them. And I thought, okay, but I could just leave a hint. I could just post a photo with that person. That I was sort of not canvassing or anything, but I just left a photo with a person on my page. But to have a photo of me and Sviatoslav Vakarchuk, that was unthinkable. It's as great a challenge as to have a photo with Elon Musk. No contact, nowhere. Okay, so I parked the thought, but the following Friday, basically one day before election day, I ended up at a private gathering with 30 people, and Sviatoslav Vakarchuk was there. So the person that I wanted to support was there. So it was achievable. It's not even was not a matter of building a contact, but if you have the opportunity of getting what you want, the question is, okay, I could approach him directly because everyone was sort of on a par. Access was open among those attending, or I could have asked one of the 30 people to introduce me, but I don't want just one photo. I want special attention from that person. I want that person to spend time with me, and so that if that first photo doesn't quite work, let's do another one. Okay, I want that person to put something in, and I approached Alyona Pritula, chief editor of Ukrainska Pravda, the person with probably the best credentials among those in attendance. And I go, I need a photo for this and that. Can you please make an introduction? And the way how that person introduced me allowed me to get what I wanted. Clear now? How it works? If you need somebody to get you what you want. Think about where you can catch that person in live access. Live access is always better. And look for somebody to make the best possible introduction. If not, then you just go directly, not miss the chance. But always be prepared. If you can put on your best clothes, put on your best perfume, use those tools. Now, Valeriy is going to speak to you about clothes. Thank you. Valeriy Martynenko. Hello, my dear friends. Valeriy Martynenko, the founder of Image consulting. We work with the busiest and most outstanding men of this country and beyond. Those people have no time at all. While the scale of challenges that they have to face are really very tremendous. And if you have to make a choice between shopping and going to a business meeting where you're going to build your image and reputation, you can delegate the former. What is image consulting? I hope you will help me do the clicking. Now, we are talking about communications, and a person's looks, they are a tool of non-verbal communication. This is a tool that will tell a lot about you without uttering a single word. Now, I'm going to divide my talk up into two parts. One is how I help my clients communicate, how I do it myself, how I communicate my team with our clients. An owner's image equals the image of the entire company. Something that Aleksandra mentioned. People buy stuff from people. People follow other people in social media networks. Now, everything is transparent, and the way we look is a direct reflection of what we do. So many people with great ideas, they fail because they walked into a meeting and then they did not comport themselves properly or confidently, and they failed. One more question: if you are at a restaurant, then the waiter comes up and puts a menu in front of you, and his hands are not tidy, and you want to order something, and that dirty, and that person might have touched your food, and you don't want that food anymore. But just use the same image to refer to the CEO of a big company. And it is important, and as Anna just mentioned, other people's spheres of influence are larger than ours. We want to break through to them. We want to get a message across. If you are here attending the summit, you're bound to be interested in stuff like this. I'm going to try and be as useful to you as possible in terms of sharing my thought. People buy people, people buy from people. You might have seen this slide. It's as somebody's looks shape 50% of how they're perceived. How they speak 38%, only 7% what they say. The meaning of the words. This is unpalatable, but it is true. The job of a stylist, somebody working with your wardrobe, is actually a very technical one. Is to pick the right clothes, to save time with the person, and to make it carefree for them. The job of an image consultant is to enable the person to communicate their values through their looks and their sense, project a sense of vision, and encourage other people to walk with them. Now, a bit of good news to IT specialists who don't like business suits. To look successful, you don't have to wear a formal suit. You saw the picture, Anna's slide where Elon Musk seated like with a bald head, now taken 10 years before the other photo where he's sort of bumped up and looking so great, and it's jeans and shirt is something that will work too, but you've got to get a good feel of what fits you in terms of it's somebody wearing a formal suit and tie when they've been forced into that suit. It shows. Even their movements change. But it's if we're talking about growth, we need to invest in developing yourselves. And if you need to walk into an important meeting and you are or buying a first suit, you should seek someone's advice on how to wear that suit, how to comport yourself wearing the suit. You can practice in front of a mirror at home, and you can record yourself and look at yourself in the mirror in a lift. Try to gesticulate, and you will get the knack of it. This is a great skill. It's fun to train it. Three simple rules that everyone needs to know. Those are must-haves, and those that you've got to get them right. Whatever you are wearing, your clothes are required to be clean and tidy and fitting. Even if you're wearing a very expensive suit, like our presidents, and they wearing were, were very they were wearing all those good brands, but they were not the ones that fitted them. And it's like the current president is kind of stands out for them. Okay, clean and tidy. B, appropriate. If you are walking into a meeting to apply for a loan or for it's you've got to have your knees covered because people may not be excited about seeing your knees. So because the shorter the skirt, the less professional you come across, and the message that your clothes communicate. You don't wear a sports watch with an business suit, but Iron Man, they wear. He wears this Garmin watch, even sleeping in that watch. This is some. Okay, they can read it. Okay, this guy is a runner, and if you walk into a meeting with that person, you'd better do some homework about some research about that person. Now there's a lot of information readily available, social media networks, just to build a profile of the person that you're going into a meeting with, and try and anticipate expectations from you, what they will expect from a startup who is here to meet me to ask for his first round. They look tidy, and their shirt is pressed. Not necessarily wearing a formal business suit. One more feature is the dress code. Whenever often it is communicated to you when you're invited to attend an event, but it's not always complied with. Is when people have shown up formal events wearing jeans, and they kind of stand out from that crowd, and but happily it's sort of things are improving, but you should avoid sort of looking out of place. Now, number 3, in terms of sort of functionality and how adequate the clothes are. If you go to a golf club wearing a formal suit, what does that communicate? You are straight from the office, you were in a rush to get here, everyone is wearing the golf clothes and trainers, but you are wearing a formal suit and shoes and all that. So social media networks, those people who don't like other people for social media networks, you don't have to communicate directly, you don't have to meet in person. But if you do not exist in social media, in the social media world, you don't exist at all. And this omni-channel approach, and there may be various messengers, it's WhatsApp or Telegram, but you can have clients texting to you in Viber, and you wanted to delete it years ago, but your grandmother uses it, for instance, or somebody else, and you've got to stay on Viber, much as you would want to delete it. But you need to be somebody. If you want to be found, then you can't afford that luxury. As opposed to another stage when you don't care if people want to find you. But I started out on Facebook with my visual art and fashion, the fashion industry, But actually, now it's Instagram. So the number of Instagram subscribers is twice the number of my subscribers on Facebook. But YouTube actually is a breakthrough. Some 5 years ago, 100% my new clients were recommendations, just personal introductions from other people. And I've seen many people you see on TV screens in their underwear in a fitting room. So it's that you see, I I've been at in their homes, but it's now but social media networks are an even greater yardstick of trust. Each business owner, each CEO, anyone operating in the public environment, they are bound to maintain social media presence. Now, 32% of new clients come from social media networks, and the most powerful channel is YouTube, and I always leave like a command bar and clients so get connected. YouTube, my channel is the concept. It's got to be as useful as possible. I share for free all I know about my trade, and I seek out new information and share it for free. I thought that okay, if I shared information, people would. I was concerned that okay, if I tell them everything, they would simply learn to do my trade themselves. But and they will not buy from me. This is a logical fallacy. Now, Facebook, it's a lot of text, a lot of reading. Instagram is because it communicates using pictures, photos. Okay, this is how you do it. YouTube, it's very simple. You turn it on when driving, stuck in traffic, or nodding off to sleep, or during your meals, and you're getting the benefit. So, laziness is the world's top brand, and taking content in video format is the most sort of convenient form. Now, I'm running out of time. I wanted to touch upon two other subjects, but it's something that I would like to share while discussing YouTube. Video content is the easiest influencing tool. Now, you're here to listen to my talk, and you will probably share this with two people. You know, the average coverage of my Instagram post is 2,000 people. Now, YouTube, 80,000 subscribers on my channel, 5 million views. Whenever I imagine that number to myself, 5 million people, this is huge influence that is sort of coming from different sides. Now, I'll tell you a story how I got my most unusual client. A young guy who wrote to me. I read his nickname ending in 93, and that was probably his year of birth, and he had a funny nickname. I was in conversation with him 15 minutes, and I saw this blue tick. He means he's a celebrity, but he's a New York Rangers striker, and he's a celebrity, and he lives in New York, of Russian descent, and we agreed to meet some couple of days before the pandemic started. But we've since worked remotely. No, social media networks, in fact, give you a lot of trust, and people have prepaid money to me without ever having seen me. So they just have trust and faith in the content that I've shared, and it's an opportunity for you to engage with clients wherever they may be. The trend is collaboration. Yeah, synergies, 1+1 = 3 or 5 or whatever it may be. Now, my rules for collaboration: I take on partners only with people who run companies and whose values I relate to. As Slava Plugin said, only the ones I would want to hug. This win-win concept. Whatever we do should benefit both sides. If that balance is disrupted, there is no point in such collaborations, and you need to target the same target audience, a similar client profile. Let me tell you how I do it. These are my strategic partners, from global brands to local Ukrainian manufacturers. Now, the brand Lexus, they used to use showbiz stars. They had the front man of the Black Eyed Peas, and everyone knew that he could afford to buy lots of cars, and people could read it that okay, he was paid this. So he ended up the very next year as a brand ambassador of Mercedes. Okay, Lexus. How they work together with local micro bloggers? They just advertising their clients. Okay, this is one of the clients. This is how they live. This is how they park. They drive a Lexus. This is how they shoot their stories. But that is actually against traffic regulations. But people do it all the same. Now, how do I benefit from collaborating with a global brand? This is just a door, an opportunity for me to get connected with their global audience. And I'm a big advocate and an ambassador of this brand, and that I actually had become a client before I became a partner. Now, I'm designing uniforms for their dealerships, and I've starred in their ads, and then we've got a whole pipeline of projects in the future. Whiskey Macallan, a global brand, and they're now building a bar in my office, and we educating the Ukrainian consumer on those top quality bottles. That is the most expensive brand. The most expensive bottle is $1.5 million. The one that has been the most expensive bottle sold in Ukraine was 1.5 million hryvnias, and it was bought within a week from Ilya Home. This is a Ukrainian maker of wardrobe systems. It's a great guy who owns the business. And when we met, and I told him that I'd designed more than 5 ensuite wardrobes for my clients because they knew, and that. So he goes, I'm going to live here in this apartment 5-10 years. Help me set up my wardrobe here, and I go like, okay, this is where you're going to hang your trousers and your jackets. Okay, and probably you need to encroach on some of the wardrobe space from your wife. And I sat down with Ilya. Can you just design me an ensuite and wardrobe? And they actually built one for free, and it's an important piece of my interior. Okay, yeah, you're now you're only left with 10 seconds. Woodstock is a guitar brand. Those guitars are made in Kiev, and my guests can try and become a rock star for 1 minute. And Vladimirskaya 22 is 22. Vladimirskaya is my office. Do stop by. Cristina. I'm Cristina Kurganskaya. So we often encounter a situation when it becomes difficult for us to communicate using words what a scent is, what it represents. So I would like you to breathe in and out, in and out. Okay, great. Now, can you imagine doing this 20,000 times per day? And as Valeriy, so it's not 100, it's more people here. People from all walks of life, 20,000 opportunities for your businesses to tell your story without words, because perfumes, scents are the easiest tool of non-verbal communication. So let's practice it. I'm trying to jazz you up a bit. Now you have an envelope under your seat. If not, then ask for help from our assistants. But don't open it. Don't open it. Just take it out. Don't sniff it. No. Now, can you please pass around those envelopes? We have very little time. Now, I'm going to give you instructions and you execute them. Okay, your job now is to think of a dream, of a desire, a new financing round or a new nice suit that you want to buy. Now, close your eyes, open the card. You will find a small piece of paper, a scented piece of paper, and you close your eyes and you think about this wish that has come true, as if it had come true, and then anchor that scent and think about it as you try and rivet the scent to it. Okay, excellent. Now, the next step is put this card in somewhere often used visible in your wallet, because it will be giving off the scent, reminding you of that wish, and then this scent will stay with you as a reminder. There is no magic to it. This is how our limbic system operates, our olfactory system. And then anytime you achieve something, that scent will be associated with your personal victory. How does the sense of smell operate? So any smell that we read on a subconscious level, and it's whenever we are consuming an information, then this emotion is evoked, and then an association is created to a certain mood, and then this drives behavior. If you think, you first do things and then you feel something. No, it's the other way around. First you experience an emotion and then you execute a certain action. This is how anything works and everything works, because smell is a great tool to communicate information about a personal brand, about your corporate brand. So, by keeping up this positive emotions trend, it now is the time when we very badly, more positive emotions. We all need to smile more often, to speed up our objectives, to stay positive. Because when we're positive, this is when we are capable of creation. When your spirit is in a positive mood, this tunes you into a very productive mode. So it is a very strong global trend. It is to create branded or brand-specific aromas. What is this all about? This is a trend that is very rapidly expanding in Ukraine. It's been around elsewhere for years, and it's been used not only by retailers, not only by hotels that spray a certain very characteristic scent. Banks have used it. Sport and beauty brands have used it. You can probably distinguish between how a BMW smells opposed to a Mercedes car. Why? It's that is targeted. This is to rivet you, anchor you through this smell. Because it's actually, this is how they infect you, and this is how they chain you to the brand. Aroma branding. So, how it works, about 84% encourages a good smell, encourages people to make a decision, to make a purchase, for instance, in 65% of cases, the person is capable of recognizing a smell years from now. Then, as opposed to a picture, when you're shown a picture in 3 months' time, you will only be able to recognize 50% of it, maybe, and it very dramatically increases the value of a product when you walk into a space and it smells or something, and it creates an ambience, an atmosphere where you can execute a certain task. So basically, the goal is maybe to motivate the person or to put them at ease. And it's bergamot or lavender or those other ingredients. They have physiological and psychological properties in how they affect us. And this is kind of, we tune ourselves, or you help clients tune into your brand. Well, it invokes positive emotions. It encourages client loyalty to your brand, because this is how you create an emotional bond with your client. This is the card that you made a wish with it. Can you think of the smell of a brand, of a product that if it enters your space, your car or your office or your home, each time you encounter this aroma, this will emotionally bring you back in contact with that brand, or project you back into that situation. And if you think of a situation where somebody close to you wears a certain perfume, and then you walk into a conference and you meet somebody wearing the same, who would you think about immediately? Yeah, about that person that you know. Yeah, because our limbic system, it stores long-term memory. This is our big RAM. And olfactory memory, according to science, takes up the largest chunk of your human RAM. That's why smells really turn us on. They really catch us. And either they create an immediate connection to somebody we know who has the same, or if you've anchored it to a dream, then it projects you back into the state of contact with your dream. Now, smell is a very powerful channel, and it operates on a subtle subconscious level. We are humans, and we want positive emotions, which we absorb from different sides. We all have our vision. Now, Valeri's been talking to you about YouTube, about the information channel, and that said, we also use our multi-sensory capabilities when we've got all 5 senses at work. When there's a presentation, somebody's talking to you about something. I already mentioned 65%. That is a scientifically proven fact that you can recognize a smell in a year's time. And we show you a picture and show it again in 3 months' time, because you see so many pictures in 3 months, you will only retain maybe 30% of it. Speaking of smell, speaking of taste, has any one of you experienced the loss of smell, the taste? How did your food taste? How did it smell? Yeah, this is correct. So if you are taking a sip of a drink and you hold your breath for 10 to 15 seconds, your brain will recognize 5 key types of taste: bitter, sweet, and then there is this 5th taste, umami, from processed foods, or you can taste it when consuming soy sauce. And this is just it encourages you to order more, to eat more. When you breathe in, just your blood gets oxygenated, and your brain picks it apart. It's like this is some great bergamot tea, or coffee with notes of fruit or something. One friend, when she lost a sense of smell, she goes, "That's now I realize why I like coffee, why I drank that bitter slush, because coffee, what is great about coffee is the aroma. Those who are in the catering restaurant business, the sense of smell plays a very huge role in among our senses. Okay, any person actually breathes in an hour 20,000 times per day, and it's 20,000 opportunities of telling your story. And like 75% of our emotions or daily emotions are related to our perceptions through the sense of smell. Can you think of situations smelling bad? Yeah, like a room smelling bad. What were your emotions? You wanted to leave there immediately, yeah? What other emotions did you experience? No emotions whatsoever? Yeah. Leave there as soon as possible. Get out of the room. Yes, because a foul smell could even make you aggressive. So it's super important too, because we are reading this information unconsciously. The question is whether we can manage, we can control this. One case that is you're all aware of is that we used it back in 2010. Apple, they during the holiday season, they came up with a unique aroma. They had tactile, multisensory showcases that gave off a characteristic smell. And back then, this was Aroma Design Awards was instituted, and then all products smell the same, coming from this company. Why? To evoke the same emotional bond. You open up a box, and you know, even if you close your eyes, you know what's in it. If you block your ears, you know what's in it, what brand is in it, because your brain remembers the smell. How we work with this in Ukraine, aroma branding. We turn on multi-sensory channels. The two cases I'm going to rush you through. So the first case is that we've made a multi-sensory presentation. So we took a product and we picked it apart in terms of its olfactory ingredients, and we showed those ingredients. We got people to smell them, and we created a special sound. We sort of we set the scene in Scotland, and we gave a sense of taste, and that's how we projected those people into that picture, and that the impressions, that performance, very different. A more corporate example, it's that we've done a polysensory event to engage multiple senses. In our space, we have a special capsule where we use all these technologies to enable people to experience it. In the corporate world, it's important to actually to move the person to a different emotional setting. That's how they remember stuff. That's how they memorize stuff in a very different way. Now, we are an agency, and we provide turnkey aroma branding services, and we integrate that piece into the brand's overall strategy. And we're very proud to be working with our clients, and now it's sub 700 companies that are actively exploring aroma branding in various segments. Where you communicate with clients, you can always enable multi-sensory communications, but it's actually communicating with a live person. You can always use technology. So, just to summarize it, some of our cases, 2018, we did over 100 scented ceramic dogs. It was the year of the dog, and what the link was that we created a unique aroma which was associated with that brand, and we put it on an object, and we send those objects around. These were just tokens of appreciation that were sent around to clients, and each of those ingredients, bergamot, jasmine, pepper, musk, each of those delivered a certain value or a certain piece of information. The black pepper, responsible for motivation; bergamot, responsible for relaxation. And there's the added story that whenever we relax, we can create. That is the creative ability, and each is responsible for an individual traits. Or the next case is about 400,000 care moments, and those are scented sanitizers, communicating those various emotions. And you have this in your pouches, and this is our token of care about you. It's keep your hands moist and sanitize and be happy. Come to see us. We're always open. Now, my dream is about to come true. No more presentation. Special guest Alyona Gudkova. It's super cool. This is Alyona's first interview in a long time. Thank you for your time. Now we're waiting for chairs to be brought onto the stage. And this is a flea market. It's existed for 6 years now, and it's been attended by over 500,000 people. The Kurazh flea market, and how it works in the media environment, how Alyona Gudkova has built a personal brand, is something that we're going to try and find out from her in the next 30 minutes. Yes. Thank you for being with us. Now, my first question: do you feel you're a brand? That Alyona Gudkova, are you a brand? I probably am, because I shouldn't put on any false modesty. I do not feel myself to be a brand, but I understand that the story of Kurazh is that I get people asking me today, when are you going to talk? So look, we shouldn't underestimate the role of the individual in promoting a business. Now, what is the flip side of the coin of the popularity? Are there things that you feel become too onerous for you? It's not that I find anything onerous, because I don't have any problem in terms of shedding things that make me uncomfortable. I've set up very strict boundaries, and being sort of famous is not what I wanted. It's not when I created my flea market. My entire ecosystem is not what I wanted to create. But the flip side of the coin is heightened attention, and that's what I'm not comfortable with, because I can't meet all demand to people asking for an interview or attending a conference, or students. I once walked in with some students that they were not interested at all. That is the flip side of the coin, because you want to make everyone happy, and you need to navigate between your own boundaries and what people expect of you. Valeriy Martynenko said yesterday there was this drawback, because now one of the things on the debit side is that now her personality is pegged too strongly to a brand. Is there a brand? Look, Kurazh, I wouldn't like to see any other person running Kurazh, because it's so much part of me. And because I'm in house, I'm part of the process. That's what makes my brand what it is. But I know Lera's pain, and from a business perspective, it's not very good. And I've discussed this with Lera, but it's like sort of owner-driven business, a charismatic leader without whom business is no longer as exciting as it was. So it's like when as I was listening to the previous speakers, and it's yeah, you need to know your target audience when you walk into a meeting, and you need to know who you're going to be talking to. Now, business becomes increasingly more personalized, and values matter more and more. Now there's a wide choice of now whether you walk into a business owned by a moron or somebody who holds themselves to high standards of values and that sort of thing. Leira Borodina said something. Okay, you were doing business here. Yeah, look, building products, but your personal brand will be sort of take care of itself automatically. Do something cool, and then you become famous, and like people come to us to work with them on their personal strategy, and it's always a dilemma whether to hire somebody, a professional, to help you navigate through social media. Now what is how? But you now you have 50,000 only 50,000 subscribers on Instagram compared to other business people, and so how did I end up with this many? Look, I was listening to some previous speakers, and I was interested. I was not willing to subscribe to all they were saying, but I haven't done anything special to become the way I'm to. I wanted to succeed. I didn't want to screw up professionally. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a manager, and my Kurazh network is I've done it all, writing posts and screwing tables together. I wanted to do a good job. That's what mattered to me. And I've never thought through my content plans or any posts or how I looked, and I have been offered to endorse a politician or somebody. Like, wait a minute, look, I swear I have got it smoking weed on Kurazh. So honesty is the best policy, the best concept for me. And I think that if you stray into writing content, if you become too obsessed with it, so you can basically lose yourself, and these people will catch you out, and this will be a big fuck up. So because my memory is not very good and my behavior, so I decided to be my own self and see how it went. Just to do a good job doing what I do, because I wasn't there to build a personal brand, and sometimes I was like somebody goes, okay, you own Kurazh, yeah, this is my, but that is my personal page. That's different. So my job was to do a good job. Basically, people like the truth, and sometimes when it is unpalatable, and then it's when people even understand everything, and when you're building and you're playing the Queen of England while you're not, people will catch you out sooner or later, and this is what repels people. And honesty and truth attracts people, but it takes some guts to play that card, to be honest, to be truthful. Like, I have so many people going like, you're so harsh, you're so honest, you're so, and I go, I'm so flexible at the same time. So, and I go, friends, this is the way I am, and this is my strength, because I may have people among my subscribers who don't really like me, but they like following me because I allow myself to be honest, to be open. So, Kurazh is your business. Okay, yeah, you have your SMM strategy, you have your team. I know that your philosophy, your personal brand's communicative philosophy, and Kurazh, there's a lot of affinity. You go head on, you speak the truth. You do not shy away from negative things. How do you build your business's communicative strategy? It's pretty much in the same way. So I found out that I only learned about such a thing, a communication strategy, only last year. So my entire communication strategy has been built around well, what many people can write stuff well, but it's what's cool, what's really great, how you get out of hateful comments, how you get out of any such shit. So how we've responded to this, we've given people the truth. Okay, yeah, we screwed up. Now we have a roof that's leaking, too few toilets, and that one once realized that if you were to go sort of attack your vulnerabilities and infections head on, this kills up to 80% of any negative comments you could potentially invite. You go, oh yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't swear here in this formal setting, but yeah, we screwed up, yeah. And everyone goes, okay, if people admit that, what is there to say? So, and this sort of filters away any non-constructive hate. So, how often do you review feedback from customers? It's not now with this COVID thing. It's not. So it's we now we were in survival mode. Yes, but it's like it's you just come shop with us. They're going to shut us down tomorrow maybe, so or the day after. So it's anyway, it's just seize the day. But people write to us like we've encouraged this feedback, and people have been giving this useful feedback. It's one when we just ripping in the seam that like enough of it, too much of it. But we've decided for ourselves that we must process each and every comment and give feedback to each comment. And this kind of mechanism has been launched, and now even those new people they realize that we do not leave any criticism unanswered, or we seek improvement whenever somebody points to any mistakes or anything. So we also conduct surveys, and we invite feedback and that sort of thing, help us become better and that sort of thing. And it's not just that we deliver on this. That's not the point many reach. But now we understand that that the lockdowns have had pretty devastating consequences. How did you monetize during the lockdown? I know that people did not ask for their money back when you had to cancel events. No. One of the most spectacular examples was that the first Kurazh that was opened following the COVID pandemic. Actually, the tickets had been bought before the pandemic, and because we pay for things afterwards, but people paid some paid annual subscriptions, and it's done. We had to close down again, and we are back to our schedule of 11 events per year. Then, and we're not going to continue come October because we now gather very large crowds, and it's like if we go into lockdown, not when they come with the closes down, but when we feel it's not responsible to put 5,000 people in one hall, in one room, and then assume that everyone is vaccinated or something. And this is important. This is our voluntary decision to go into lockdown come October. That's when we no longer can do events outdoors, and that's people have supported us. People have given us money. They've bought tickets. They've helped with their connections. They've helped with their equipment, with furniture, and what have you. And it's what this machine is in motion. It's hard to stop. This ecosystem that is sort of now self-propelling. Is it right to say that it's your partners are drawn by the social dimension? Look, we had 20,000 people back in May. I think this is good business for partners. Well, it varies certainly, but what really matters to them is that the partners. I'm confident it's another big and powerful trend. Is when partners seek partnerships based on their values, and we've had cases now. We've discontinued with a partner because we were not able to agree on some boundaries. What worked for both sides? Yes, they want to team up with me. They want those personal communications based on how you respond to their feedback and how whether you give them good value for their money. And it's like it's quite normal for us to give a big discount to the entire food court for the next time if we drawn too few people this time, or if a partner did a poor job, then give them a big discount for the next time, or just have the whole team work hard to help them succeed. That's the whole point of collaboration. It's a win-win. Now, your team, you have young people working for you. Yes, I joke about it that I'm the top head hunter. All young people. I'm 36 now. All young people want to work at Kurazh. When they enter university and they start writing me letters, I want to be part of your project. This is very cool. So, what is the how does it work? It's a cool project. They want to be part of it. Yeah. But then they ask you afterwards about the terms and everything. No, yes, it's not enough now to be just a cool business. It's not enough. Everyone, especially those the new blood, those now at university reading books, they all want this added value. Well, it's actually what it lies in. It's the kind of social impact that you create, and it is shaped by the kind of footprint that the person leaves by doing the work that they do, and that's so we've seen many people collaborate with us who could have been much better off financially had they sought job collaboration with another partner. Okay, sharing well is the new black. Yeah, it's super cool, super fashionable. Based on your example, in terms of your sales and Instagrams, those selling used clothes, so like it's well, I haven't tasked myself with identifying that, but the number of people who show up. We have the old one that how a flea market works is just for old clothes to be sold at a low price because we need to make money on new clothes. We initially started out as just as used because people wanted to get into our flea market, so we had to set prices high. It's because that's how we are subsidizing the other piece, selling used stuff. But many of people who come to attend our they like just rummaging in those piles of clothes. They just like the experience, and it's now the new normal, and it's happening regularly. And many people make money. Like I bought a carpet dating back to the 1960s. I paid $500 to put on the floor. I like carpets, and we buy loads of them. And those people, they make a lot more than those making new carpets. So it's actually there is a premium on that. So, but the new stuff that you sell, I'm a client. It's also local brands, mostly handmade, Ukrainian made. Yeah, yeah, mostly. Yeah, we invited H&M to partner with us, and they refused. Okay, who of the big brands have you at least tried to collaborate with? You mean clothing brands? Yeah, big brands, any brands. Monobank, cashback, for charity. Yeah, it's Monobank. Can you talk to us about this one? It's an interesting project. Well, it's 25 million hryvnias in cashback money over 2 years. This was donated to Ukrainian hospitals. Monobank actually sought that partnership. It's not. We do not deserve that credit. We simply operate that product. We simply order that project. We pick the recipients to whom that cashback is remitted. And Monobank, Dimar Dubileta and Rogalski, they came to see us, and they went, Alyona, you were doing funky, great charity work, and that's what we could easily relate to. And it's from let's gather cashbacks and donate them. and I actually agreed to do that because that is not a big source of charitable donations. Mostly, it's because individuals posting photos of sick children, but it's so I talked them into doing this with their potential, and that's if you buy equipment, then it saves more people. So Monobank, lots of collaborations now. Ksusha Schneider is another partner who now we helping them with our collections, and we are also fundraising to support the Ukrainian sewing college, where they enroll uh, students with poor hearing. I'm all for collaborations. I don't think that any company can be good and excellent at everything. That we're good at clothes, good at events, and we're going to private label everything. I don't believe in this. I worked with Supper Club back in my youth in Amsterdam. When I started in event management, I had a collaboration with the creative concept of Supper Club, and I remember the manager of the project told me, "Look, in Amsterdam, we share ideas among our creative agencies that we don't have time to produce, but that it's look, but it benefits everyone. It makes the market stronger, and this idea. So I have this ideas that I think that we are collaborating a lot. Where we Lesia Patoka for an event. No, it's like this is a story. I'm dreaming of who we're going to collaborate with and what we're going to do on our own. You, as the mother of Kurazh, are you thinking of franchising? No, 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 no. No, I'm a mom. You can't like give up your child and go, okay, let's toss him her over to another person to be educated. So look, I'm the mom here. I will spend sleepless nights over somebody not completely meeting our standards. That would be difficult for me. But what is a lot more important for me, it's apart from the cash that you collect together with Monobank, are those media campaigns that you've launched. It's actually reshaping the architecture and the people's perceptions about this city. Talk to us about the idea. Be any way you like. Now it's this is a registered slogan. It's we have reserved all rights to it, and it's because there's no phrase that could describe us in a better way. This was came up. This was the students of the Kiev Media Arts Institute that we collaborated with. I spoke at an event with them, and they created our communications strategy. And those students, they came with that idea. There were lots of companies, and they came up with their own strategy. There was a boy, a girl. I don't recall. I actually asked them to come forward, and now be any way you like. And it was like it gave us goosebumps. And it's under this brand we created this be any way you like, be different, and it was awarded the Effie Award for that campaign. Not being a marketing agency, we produced it. We had a lot of arguments because it was difficult within our team, because it was draining emotionally. We were shooting kids with disabilities and with one block, and people not being sort of considered normal, but it's like that was it was difficult to deliver, and we were blocked, and I was accused of promoting child pornography. There were lots and lots of bumps on this road, but it's when you open up those wounds and you get such strong reactions that's means you're doing things right. People, this got people thinking about this, and we set up this display at the Maidan Nezalezhnosti metro station, and it had huge coverage, and it we garnered a lot of support for that project, and we keep using that brand for tolerance. But to become a partner with you, do you should be any way you like, or how? No, your business partner. Look, I can't deceive myself. I cannot work with people who is not promoting certain values or professing. Two and a half months ago, I gave birth to my second son, and I wrote a constitution for my nannies. What tolerance meant to me, what tolerance to um, and diversity meant to me, and I actually, when I was interviewing candidates, I asked them about how she understands people with disabilities and how they're going to call a boy living nearby who has a disability in a wheelchair or something. I think that being any way you like, that's what opens up genuine freedom, not of any single individual, but of an entire community. And I think that future, this is what the future holds, because you can't tune a country all to sing in one tone. And Osho was right, because he was building his own Rajesh Purana, whatever it was called, because he wanted to be surrounded by the values that he himself professed, whether it was okay or not okay. I don't know, but on a global scale, this is what the future holds, because people will congregate based on the values that they share. There's one more trend that you touched upon. All your clients, it's a community of like-minded people, and it actually feels when you walk into a Kurazh event. Has anything born out of this? Any follow-up during the lockdown? Did you meet? No, we did not meet. But for me, a great opportunity for me is that while we uh, shut down during the lockdown, but when we got back together, everyone was in their place, and we were still in contact, but we did not have anywhere to meet because people had to uh, lock up at home. But we kept up the vibe, and we all got back together. But eventually, but based on how we back to how we selected people, like, it reminds me of a case when we didn't want to work with one company because we always screen through Instagram. It really matters what you write on Instagram, what you share on Instagram, and we looked at their Instagram pages, and we found out they were homophobic, and we because we have LGBT flags all over the place, so we support very strongly, very vocally the LGBT community. So money is not all there is to it. Can you measure sales following a personal post? How does that convert into sales? Have you traced that? Yes, I can, because every time I write my post, it's about Kurazh. I always have in Kurazh I have a content plan, but what I need to write, and it shows. That 2 weeks before an event, I start writing posts about the upcoming event. We've done some research survey, and they find out about Kurazh from me, because they feel I'm the biggest conduit. And I think it's cool when the owner communicates openly about their product and frequently. And I like when owners speak about the work that they do. Now, the question is why to become a micro influencer? Why invest your time and your money in developing your social media presence? I'm always interested in this experience. Like, you are an influencer by Kiev, by Ukrainian standards. How often do you get people knocking on your door to buy stuff from your personal page? For you to write a post to somebody, or if you pop. I've written posts 3 years ago. I remember when we came to the 1974 pavilion at the VDNG, and then we had broken down the walls, and then we ran out of budget, so we actually put 6 million hryvnias into rehabilitating that old hangar, and then we ran out of money. We didn't have any money. We had everything lying in ruins. I needed money, and I started selling. Posts, and I actually I was selling posts for $1,000 or more, and I actually announced that we succeeded in in collected 250,000 hryvnias, and we raised this. This was enough to tide this over. They started reinvesting our earnings. Now I get a lot of demand for this, and now it's actually very interesting. I'm 80. I do not respond to 80% of those letters because it's got the mail shots and it's in hello, a name, and then it's and not my name. That they It's just the word name in brackets. They forget to or hello Tatiana. So there's some forwarded emails. But if I do not respond to this because it means that they don't really need me. So it's could you please uh, advertise hemorrhoid candles or a, uh, or hygiene pads. Look, what pads I'm pregnant. So like they do not know me. They do not pick the partner. But if there is, I'm not going to advertise products and I thank them. I'm coping without advertising. But how much in the future? Okay, how much are you going to charge? But 50,000 I'm going to charge, and I'm going to donate this. Sometimes I've offered this. I will charge you this much, and I will give it up to a charity. It's like some kind of a Robin Hood taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Yeah. Now, if not, okay, it's not all about money, but all these um, unpackings and then or like you come and we will pay for your hotel and free and exchange. I don't like to owe something to somebody. I always praise the business when I like it. I always praise the product if I like it. If there's somebody from product marketing who send me unsolicited products, big boxes, and this is stop doing it. And this is like I want to write a post about it. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Maybe I will now, but it's a you've got to become environmentally conscious yesterday, and it's to send people stuff or gifts that they don't want to promote hyper consumption. No, this is bad. You shouldn't do it. I unpack stuff or products very infrequently. Only if I can relate to this, I want to just praise the product. I had a story, and I had a bottle of perfume, and it was an acrylic hand. They wanted to make sculpture, but it is disposable, and it was like how many of those hands were discarded on that very day. For me, somebody who wants to promote Kurazh, who's fighting against overconsumption, they should have if they made a candle, and that would have worked. That would have been involved more work. But I really like business companies and owners who are attentive to detail about how it is needed, how it is environmentally sustainable. Let's not produce shit of any kind. Now, this eco trend, we have been walking through this what matters to communication, like Kiev's communications as a city brand. What's Kiev to you? Now we have 140 speakers out of 25 countries, 1,500 guests, and for many of them, this is their first time in Ukraine, and they are at Unit City now. But what the big question for us: how to communicate Kiev, how to communicate Ukraine? What's the vision of Kiev today? I think Kiev has a lot to work on in terms of promoting its branding and its communications, because there is no strategy there. So it's like people just pulling this city in different directions. For me, Kiev, those are some specific locations, like Unit City Kiev is cool, the urban park is cool. Um, Kiev, to me, is more of kind of performances or events. I know that Anna is here. Yeah, this Zavertilo is good. I'm actually excited about what's going on in Kiev in terms of uh, some people and some specific business examples. But what, as a systemic person, what I lack is a clear-cut strategy. The Kiev is this, and then for this to be promoted, or Ukraine is this. I like an idea, a national idea, what it is that binds us together, what's in common among all of us. I don't really know what it is. I find this very lacking. I think it's a great story, and that's when posting about the parade, that it's like a parade was consumed so much money, that this was so horrible. It was like a lot of hateful comments. And I attended the parade, even though I don't like big free events. But I felt proud. I saw all those service personnel and all those people watching the parade. That was something, bringing people together from different walks of life. They were there to feel proud, to cry, but it was like Mria, the big plane. That is something but that one Mria is not enough. So I would like to see some glue that uh, basically would something to bring us together, for people to feel proud. But I wish I could come up with a more optimistic answer to this question. But Kurazh is one example. Look, one question is that everyone can. Who are you subscribed to in social media? Yes, I have. Yeah, I have about 1,000 subscriptions. Are those people who? Yes. Yeah, I keep clearing that lets you know that life hack that when you on your birthday in Facebook, and then when you get 1,000 congrats, I clear my list every once in a while, just to keep people who motivate me or inspire me, or any visual stories. Yes, I'm subscribed to many, and it's like, and I've seen many of them here to use YouTube for communication. Yes, I'm not on YouTube, but I use it as a user. You don't have a channel? No, I'm not planning to have one. I realize that is the way to go, and I quite agree with the previous speakers, but I'm just too lazy. I know that I've recently given an interview to Cristina, and she told me that she was spending a lot of time on YouTube to keep it up. But if it is not classy, if it is good, why do it? I'm very lazy as an entrepreneur. Either do it great or don't do it at all. So you pick a niche and then you mine it. That you don't, then you get bored with it, move on to the next. Now you shouldn't think of yourself as an umbrella who can cover everyone. Now I don't have the energy to invest in a YouTube channel. I have other priorities. We know what they are. Yeah, we have to wrap up now, but there is one important piece of news that we all know from Alyona's social media, and let's congratulate Alyona on the birth of her son, who stands between Alyona and her YouTube channel. Can I hug you? Yeah, you can do anything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope that you have got something positive from the events. Yeah, put the mic down. Thank you.